Good evening, everybody, and welcome to our Thursday night Anamkara meditation program. With all my heart and with all my love, I welcome you to our program this evening. And it's so good to have you come together with me for this satsang, this keeping the company of the truth, the light of the truth. That's the light of wisdom. That's the light of love and compassion. So we do the practices so that we can know the very source of that, the divine within, and be able to be drenched in that and walk it into this dark world at a very challenging time. So it's keeping the company of others, doing the practices, and moment by moment staying in touch with the truth of who we are, the truth of what all beings are, really, the divine, an emanation of the divine. So we come together to know that, to practice that, to be strengthened and buoyed by that knowledge, to walk it into the world. So thank you for coming this evening and bringing the power of your practices, the power of your commitment to practice, and of course, most importantly, your essential divine nature. So thank you for coming. We're going to start with the opening mantras, and there are powerful means for invoking that direct awareness, the direct experience of the truth of who we are. That's what practice is all about, is to have that and really become immersed in that, steady in that. And mantra is a very potent means for doing that, especially in this age. So we'll start with the opening mantras. Shri Mata Kali Mahadevi Ki Jai Gajananam Bhuta Ganari Sevitam Kalpita Jambo Palacharu Bhakshanam Umasutam Shoka Vinashakarakam Namami Vigneshwara Parapankajam Shri Ganeshayan Namaha Shri Ganeshayan Namaha Shri Ganeshayan Namaha. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamandaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Shri Mata Kali Mahadevi Ki Jai. So once again, with all my heart, I welcome you to our program this evening. That sweet stillness suffused with just that loving presence, the awareness, who we truly are, the divine. That's what refreshes mind and body. That's what strengthens mind and body to deal with this world, to be able to walk that into this world. That is practice in this age. It's the practice of everyday life. That's what we're called upon to know, live, embody, and walk into the world. Now. The end is now. The beginning is now. Bring all your attention to this point. All your attention now. My dear one, everyone enjoys being loved. All beings delight in love coursing through them. All want to be happy. All want to enjoy good health and a long life. All are loving sons and daughters rising from the same source. Can you harm a son or daughter without piercing the mother and father? In this moment, do you choose to love all sons and daughters? Are you cultivating the sweet fruit of compassion and kindness for every being? That sublime nectar can be yours right now. Enough of bitterness, anger, and revenge. What has cultivating these brought to anyone but agony? To mothers and fathers, sons and daughters. Even if it's just for your own pleasure, choose the boundless joy of living with compassion and kindness for all. Choose now. Choose now. Practice is what empowers us to choose. Without the practice of leaving behind the petty, conditioned mind, we don't have choices. We act out over and over again the same repeated patterns, the same conditioning that has gone on for generations and sustained the violence, exploitation, denigration of beings for generations, for all of human history. We practice so that we get free of that, and we look to those who have gotten free as living examples. There are countless of them. Some are luminaries like Thich Nhat Hanh or the Dalai Lama or others in history. But they're examples of what we can know. They're all humans. You're a human. I'm a human. We have this capacity. And so the practices that come out of the great mystical traditions like Hinduism and yoga, Buddhism, the mystic Christian and Sufi and Judaic traditions, all aim at bringing us to the knowledge of the boundless compassion of that living presence of the divine that is within each and every one of us. So that's why we practice, to know that freedom, even if it's only for ourselves. Right? As we get that more and more, as we become immersed in it more and more, then even that selfishness of attitude disappears. We want it for all beings. This world in the yoga tradition is known as karma bhumi. Karma means the law of cause and effect. Bhumi is this world, this domain. Right? So it's the domain for learning about what happens, what's the effects, what's generated by our actions. So when we talk about good karma or bad karma, we're just talking about the consequences of our actions. Unfortunately, those consequences often accrue too far away from the act that gave birth to them. So we keep coming back lifetime after lifetime after lifetime, often mystified by, why am I having to do this, or why am I confronting that? Because we don't have a notion of what our own karmas were, what were our own actions that gave birth to these things. So one of the things that's come out of the yogic in the Eastern traditions in general, and I think in mystical traditions in general, is that one of the absolute foundations, actually is the foundation practice, is called ahimsa. Ahimsa. In the yogic tradition in Sanskrit, that means non-violence. Non-violence. Stop doing violence. then you can start clearing up all kinds of karma. So the yogis and the sages and saints realize, okay, we have to be able to do things in this lifetime that also are going to bear fruits in next life, but positive fruits, fruits that support us, knowing more and more deeply the truth of who we are, that empower us more and more fully to walk that into the world. To be able to choose compassion, love, kindness in the moment. That's a practice. That's a practice moment by moment. When such atrocities happen in the world and we naturally feel the revulsion, we feel the anger, we feel the powerlessness to make that change, those emotions running through our psyche can just kick up other old conditioned patterns of reactivity. And so thoughts of acting out that kind of anger and hate, they're generated along with that. So we pull it back from that. We have to practice being able to see. And one of the practices that Buddha taught was to be able to see people through the eyes of compassion, to see that even those who are doing violence to others and harming others, to see both their divinity and the painful, contracted, afflicted mind that's giving birth to those actions. Those actions don't come from the root of who they are. They come from the root of the mind in a deluded state of ignorance. The foundational ignorance that's talked about in Buddhism and yoga and Hinduism is called avidya. It's not knowing the truth of who we are. So humans flail about, creating pain for themselves and others out of that ignorance. So we keep cutting through. The ignorance is forgetting, not knowing you are Buddha, you are Christ, you are the divine, however you want to give it words. But that's the truth. Not knowing that truth creates such pain, such emptiness, such craving of the mind to try and fill the hole that's left by that ignorance, that it will do anything. It's capable of doing anything to anyone. It can destroy an entire planet trying to consume all that there is to fill that emptiness. So to be wise is to see through that, to be able to act on wisdom, to support others acting more wisely, to be able to see, even when we see somebody doing atrocious things, to both, yes, reject that kind of action, but see past what's going on to that person, see both their divinity and their accountability. Their accountability. The law of karma is the ultimate law of accountability. It essentially is, there is no escaping the consequences of your actions, not even by death. You will face them at some time or another. What will you choose? What are you choosing now? Because it's going to affect what you choose, what you then encounter later, whether it's later in this life or later in another life. Knowing that directly, being able to experience that and see that, is part of what opens in states of meditation, where we go beyond the mind and start to see these dynamics. We might even get glimpses of past lives and see what's gone on that's informed this life. But even without that direct experience for ourselves, we can see the law of karma happening all the time, and the cause and effect nature of that. Seeing that gives us wisdom, gives us the greater power to choose consciously, what am I doing? What am I cultivating? And then also looking beyond ourselves, so that when we see what's going on, it might be in another town, another city, another state, another country, we see this. Then part of our sadhana, part of our practice is to reach out and help support these people who are suffering and suffering at the hands of others in other places. We might say, oh, I'm content, gee, my house is good, my life is good. No, only if we're ignoring the suffering of others. So when we see that suffering, we have to say, oh, what can I do? What's happening in Georgia? What's happening in Texas? What can I do to support people being able to flourish under a real democracy and not have their votes suppressed? What are we doing in other places to help support that so that people have greater freedom? So it becomes part of our practice to be able to see, what am I empowered to do to be able to support that? What am I empowered to do to support the poor people in Ukraine or in other parts of the world? Now, we can't necessarily do it for all people in all places. We can have the good intention and feeling for all suffering beings. And then we can say, okay, I have how much resources, how much time and energy can I give to that? But I'm going to give generously to that, because it's being in accord, it's being in harmony with the vision that, oh, these are all divine beings suffering. It's also seeing that, climate change is causing untold suffering not only for human beings, we're losing species, entire species by the hundreds because of it. All beings, all suffering. What are we empowered to do about that? So meditation and the practices aren't about, just escaping into a nice, relaxed, calm state and feeling like, like the turtle that tucks its limbs in and all shut down in there and could be looking quite content. No, but the turtle still has to come out and walk and move about in the world. We are going to walk about informed by a higher vision of what we ourselves are capable of, what humanity is capable of. That this karma bhumi is like a learning lab. We incarnate into this sphere so we can learn the lessons. And we'll keep coming back until we've learned them all. And then we'll keep coming back, if we've vowed to do so, to help others learn, to get free, to be able to know what it is to live in the direct knowing of the highest. That's unshakable. Unshakable equanimity, unshakable joy, unshakable love and compassion, because they're not bound by being caused by a state of what do I have, what do I want, what do I need. No, we're talking about the state of your own divine self, your own Buddha nature. That's uncaused, rapturous, loving joy. That's unalloyed peace and equanimity. That's unbounded, unconditioned compassion and wisdom. The ordinary mind is always used to projecting itself onto these states. Well, I feel good if I got blah, 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 or if I'm not losing blah, blah, blah. Its states, even its most positive states, are all conditioned. They're all based on satisfying something or other. That's not the state of yourself. That's not the state of the divine. That's not the state of your Buddha nature. That's not the state of bodhicitta, Buddha mind. That's not the state of Christ consciousness. Again, call it what we will. We need to know that to be empowered to walk in this world, bringing that light, that wisdom, that love, that also says there are limits, there are boundaries. We have to say no. Certain behaviors are not acceptable. Certain kinds of speech, not acceptable. Certain acts, not acceptable. And then empower our political leaders to be aligned with that. This is all part of a truly integrative perspective, which is life. So spiritual life can't be divorced from politics and economics and our ecosystem. Not anymore. In this world, they're all interrelated. Everything is a practice. Every moment is a practice. Every breath is a practice. Every thought is a practice. So they're saying, choose now. What thought are you choosing? What are we cultivating moment by moment? Where is our attention going? What are you giving your attention to? This is what we ask is, what am I going to give my attention to? From the moment we wake up, what am I going to give my attention to? Oh, let me start with just keeping it in mantra, a throb of the infinite, a pulse of the divine, of my own self. Let my mind be informed by its dharma. What's its actions that are supporting the highest in the world, in my life, in the moment, in my mind, in my body. Karma Bhumi. This is a world of accountability, a world of responsibility. We're responsible for all of this. So we act more and more consciously. More and more consciously means more and more empowered. And we face the pain that unconscious ignorance is creating. We face that. We feel that. Those who are a victim of that, we strive to change that. To cut through that ignorance on so many different levels. How do we support education? How do we support healthcare for everyone? How do we support in just very concrete ways, reducing suffering and expanding freedom for people? So many concrete ways. They don't have to be, esoteric, mystical. But they're dharmic. Because it's dharma that informs everything. That's why that symbol of dharma, the great mother cow in this age, being so afflicted, she has but one leg left. The call for us to be the other three legs. That means we stand for dharma in our lives. It means we stand for loving compassion, for wisdom and truth, for engagement. Because there's so many people willing to fight out of ignorance and fear, driven to possess and own and think it's, if I don't have it all, then anybody else has something, I'm going to have less. I mean, just a completely deluded state. And we make heroes of him. Oh, he's got billions of dollars. How great. Or she's got billions of dollars. Head of this company and that company. Isn't that great? No, it's not. Not when there's people starving. Not when some people have more money than many nations. There's nothing laudatory about that. So the more we come home to the truth of who we are, the more clearly we see, and the more we say, okay, I'm going to cultivate that state of equanimity, of clarity, of wisdom, of compassion. I'm going to see the opportunities that arise where I can make a difference, where I can project my resources, my power into a situation to help it go a better direction. And we do it also from that state of wisdom and equanimity, compassion and love. Getting free of the fear-driven mind. That's essential. That's an essential part of sadhana, of practice. When we sit down to meditate and the mind is spinning, so often what it's spinning about is what it's afraid of or what it's angry about. Fear and anger dominate the mind. In neuroscience, we can see it because it's related also to what's called the old mammalian brain, the amygdala. Daniel Goleman, a famous psychologist, coined the term amygdala hijack. It's when that old part of the mammalian brain hijacks the rest of the brain. The frontal lobes are higher order thinking. so that fear and anger dominate and drive the fight, flight, freeze response. All conditioned. Not an essential part of who you are. It's an essential part of the hardware we came in with. But that hardware is mutable, trainable, changeable. That's what we do. So the automaticity that for evolutionary reasons was seen to be a good thing, protected us from being eaten alive in the jungles, not protecting us now, as is turning on one another and eating each other. That's what it means symbolically to get above the lower chakras, because the lower chakras are centers of consciousness, evolved just with maintaining existence, having power, having a mate. These drive all animals, all creatures. What distinguishes us? We can go rise to the heart, where there's the flame of the divine. That's what's symbolized by that. The living flame of the infinite, right there in our heart. We can go farther up. Our consciousness expands, so we can go to the very source. That's why the highest chakra is not a chakra. It's the Sahasrara, the 1,000 lights. It's a way of symbolically talking about we're constantly illumined. Right? We're walking around under a rain of light. But we're so identified with the earth element, with the Muladhara chakra. Our consciousness is so caught down in its very lowest manifestation that we don't see that light. Not because it's not there, because our attention is so driven by fear and anger, trying to exist, trying to possess, trying to avoid what's painful, trying to go after what's pleasurable. So first we start by stepping back from the mind, so we can see those are conditioned patterns of mind and body. They're not who you are. You have a mind, but you're not your mind. You have a body, you're not your body. You have all these conditioned patterns, but they're not who you are. You are the infinite, the one, the divine. And so you can act in ways that decondition the mind, that decondition the body. Countless studies have been done on the power of meditation to decondition reactivity in mind and body. One of the essential steps of becoming free. And then reconditioning it so that we more automatically respond with compassion. This instrument can be conditioned to respond with love, with compassion, with patience. So we cultivate that. That's what all the practices are doing. Deconditioning, setting us free from all those old patterns, conditioning new ones that serve to tune this instrument to being in accord with its highest nature and empowered to walk that into the world. And we'll keep coming back until we get it. And so taking refuge in mantra is one of the most potent forms of being able to transform the mind. If the mind is repeating Om Namah Shivaya or Om Kali Ma and the Maha Mantras, I bow to the auspicious one, I invoke the Divine Mother, then it's not thinking about how angry and annoyed it is. Right? It might go off again and then you bring it back to the mantra. And it goes off on something else, you bring it back to the mantra. You're deconditioning it. You're just teaching it. Let go of that, come back to this. Let go of that. You're training it, retraining it with persistence, with patience. You don't slap it around. Why aren't you keep doing the mantra? No, that's another conditioned pattern. No, we approach it with patience and kindness. So we're actually practicing towards ourselves the very set of patterns, mental, behavioral, everything that we want to bring into the world. Treat yourself with that kindness. Bestow the grace of compassion and love on yourself. Who doesn't need that? Who doesn't want to be loved? To know the joy of love. The joy of giving love and receiving love. It's the foundation of ahimsa, non-violence. We're in a state of love. There is no violence. It will not generate violence. So we let love inform all our practices. Let me lovingly chant. Let me lovingly contemplate. Let me lovingly repeat the mantra. Let me lovingly serve as I'm acting in the world. Let me lovingly put aside what might prevent me from serving, so I can be really present to lovingly serve. His Holiness the Dalai Lama said, when it comes to different practices, he said, seva, that selfless service, that dominates like most of your time. He says, spend 10% of your time on yourself. The other 90% serving lovingly, compassionately others. Because the ordinary mind, again, it's very self-identified, self-concerned, gets bound in a kind of a narcissism. Pain makes us narcissistic, makes us collapse into ourselves protectively or irritably. So we practice, put it aside, and we rise to the occasion to serve. And then we discover the extraordinary capacity we have for that. And the joy and the Shakti, the power of consciousness that supports that. It's Dharma Shakti. So there's times when we're going into states of stillness and quiet to directly and fully become immersed in that knowing. And then informed by that, the mind and body shift into a state of action or movement. But that consciousness, it's still there, still luminous, still at peace, still all-embracing, seeing everyone and everything as its own divine self. And then the winds of grace that flow from that. Inform the mind and body, empower it. Without it, a poor mind feels so beleaguered, so fatigued, so spent. So we teach it, plug in, plug into the infinite one, plug into the divine. That's what's going to rejuvenate us. Not consuming something else, not drinking something else, not eating something else, not buying something else, not having another relationship. No, no. Those are no substitute. Direct knowing. That's where the mind and body can know true rest. The rest that comes from letting go into the divine embrace, merging with that. So now we're going to chant, and we're going to be chanting Om Kali Ma, Kali Durga, Namo Nama, and Om Namah Shivaya, Shivaya Nama Om. So Kali, the great mother, the divine mother, ferocious mother. She has no tolerance for delusion and ignorance. Shiva, the boundless one, infinite, in his expanse of absolute stillness, unmoved by movements of the mind, unmoved by movements of the body, unmoved by movements of the world. That's what empowers us to have steady wisdom. We are both the infinite power of the Divine Mother, the boundless wisdom and steadiness of the infinite auspicious one. Come to rest in that. So now we'll begin with the chant. Shivaya Nama Om. Shivaya Nama Om. Om Kali Ma. Om Kali Ma. Kali Durga Namo Namah. Kali Durga Namo Namah. Om Namah Shivaya. Om Namah Shivaya. Shivaya Nama Om. Shivaya Nama Om. Om Kali Ma. Om Kali Ma. Kali Durga Namo Namah. Kali Durga Namo Namah. Om Namah Shivaya. Om Namah Shivaya. Shivaya Nama Om. Shivaya Nama Om. Om Kali Ma. Om Kali Ma. Kali Durga Namo Namah. Kali Durga Namo Namah. Om Namah Shivaya. Om Namah Shivaya. Shivaya Nama Om. Shivaya Nama Om. Om Kali Ma. Om Kali Ma. Kali Durga Namo Namah. Kali Durga Namo Namah. Om Namah Shivaya. Om Namah Shivaya. Shivaya Nama Om. Shivaya Nama Om. Om Kali Ma. Om Kali Ma. Kalim Durga Namo Namah. Allowing the mind to rest in the stillness, the silent embrace, the boundless love, the divine within. As the mind moves, just gently bring it back to the throb of that love, the throb of the infinite that is the mantra. Whether it's Om Namah Shivaya or Om Kalima. Rest in that. Dissolve in that. Come to know the truth of who you are and who all beings are. The pure one, the divine. Kalim Durga Namo Namah. Kalim Durga Namo Namah. Om Namah Shivaya. Om Namah Shivaya. Shivaya Namah. Om Shivaya Namah. Om Kalima. Om Kalima. Kalim Durga Namo Namah. Kalim Durga Namo Namah. So we end with this prayer. May all our practices truly benefit everyone, and may all beings know complete freedom from suffering. Namaste. So we're empowered to choose the way of love, the way of compassion, the way of kindness and patience, the way of the heart, the way of the living flame of the divine within. We choose that. We cultivate that awareness and understanding until our meditation has developed to the place where we're immersed in that, where it washes away the ignorance, the wrong understanding, the avidya, the thinking that we are what we're not, and that we're not what we are. We cultivate that right understanding. We cultivate compassion and kindness until our state spontaneously informs our every thought, every action, every breath, and how we walk in this world. So thank you for being ones who are doing that work, the most important work, for being committed to practice and then living the fruits of your practice into the world for the benefit of all beings. Thank you. Thank you. And so thank you for coming this evening and bringing the power of your practices and the luminous, loving nature of your sublime self. Thank you. And thank you for the ways that you support Anam Kar and our offering of these programs and the e-newsletter and videos. Thank you. And I look forward to seeing you in 2 weeks.